A struggling father witnessed a stranger breaking down during a date. Her words altered their paths forever. Quick pause, drop a comment telling us where you're watching from. We love tracking how far these stories reach. Dominic Hayes was perched at the counter of Joe's Diner in Denver. It was Valentine's Day, 7:15 at night. He had exactly $2.37 to his name, savoring a lukewarm coffee he was trying to stretch out for an eternity. He was only stranded there because his pickup truck had died 3 blocks back, and the next bus wasn't due for another 20 minutes. After a grueling 12-hour haul at the mechanic shop, grease was still embedded under his nails. His back screamed in pain and his stomach rumbled that coffee was his only dinner. He literally couldn't afford a single bite to eat until payday arrived on Friday, a tormenting 3 days away. Being a broke widower raising an 8-year-old girl is tough enough, especially after losing your wife and unborn child 4 years back. But Valentine's Day feels like a cruel joke from the cosmos. Everywhere you turn, there are beaming couples interlocking fingers and exchanging bouquets, while you sit solo at a greasy spoon, pretending a $2 brew fills the void. His little girl Sophie was safe with their neighbor, Mrs. Rita. She was a saint of an older woman who babysat gratis because she understood Dom was swimming against the current. He had sworn to Sophie he'd be back by 8 to tuck her in and read a story. Despite being so drained, his vision was blurring. He was glancing at his phone for the 3rd time, tracking the bus, when a woman entered. She looked elegant but jittery, clearly bracing herself for a date. She slid into the booth right behind Dom, checking her screen every 10 seconds, oscillating between anticipation and sheer terror. 5 minutes later, a guy in a sharp suit strutted in. "Vanessa," he announced, loud, enough for Dom to hear clearly. The woman replied, "Yes, hi, you must be Marcus. Lovely to meet you." She tried to project confidence, but her voice betrayed her, coming out trembling and thin. Dom tried to focus on his mug and his screen, respecting their privacy. But the diner booths were back-to-back with zero soundproofing. He became an unwilling audience member to every word exchanged. They navigated the standard first date script: careers, pastimes. Dom gathered Vanessa was a nurse, while Marcus was a finance guy who loved the jet-set lifestyle. It all seemed painfully generic until Marcus asked, "Your bio said you're big on family time. You got brothers and sisters or something?" Vanessa's tone dropped to a hush. "I have a 5-year-old son, Oliver. He is my entire universe." A heavy silence hung in the air, palpable even from behind. Marcus finally spoke. "Oh, a kid. You left that part out. Honestly, dating single moms isn't my vibe. That's a hard pass for me." Dom's grip tightened on the ceramic mug. Who possesses the audacity to say that to someone's face? Vanessa attempted to salvage the moment. "I know it's a big ask, but Oliver is a miracle. He's so resilient and brilliant." Marcus let out a dismissive scoff. 5, you said? So that's, 13 years until he launches? That's a massive burden." Vanessa's voice fractured. "Actually, he's sick. It's terminal brain cancer. He's currently in home hospice. Doctors gave him weeks, maybe a couple of months if we catch a break." The ambient noise of the diner seemed to vanish. Then Marcus said, "Jesus, that is intense. Look, I'm sorry, but I can't do this. I didn't sign up to watch a kid die. That is way too much emotional baggage." Dom heard the screech of a chair. He turned slightly to see Marcus standing, tossing bills onto the formica. The man actually added, "Good luck. Hope it works out," as if he were rejecting a business proposal rather than abandoning a woman losing her 5-year-old. Marcus marched out without a backward glance. Vanessa buried her face in her palms and broke down. It wasn't a theatrical wail. It was that silent, shaking sobbing that hurts to watch because she was fighting so hard to suppress it. A server approached, asking if she needed help. She managed to choke out, "I'm okay. Just the bill, please." It was a lie. She was shattered. Dom sat frozen, his blood simmering. How could a human being be that cold? To look at a grieving mother and treat her pain like a hassle. His mind flashed to Sophie waiting in the warmth. He thought of his late wife, Olivia, who gave her life for their second child. He thought about how the world crushes you and how our only duty is to be there for one another. Ignoring the voice in his head telling him to mind his business, Dom pushed himself up, crossed the floor to Vanessa's table, and said, "Hey, look, I apologize for intruding. This is going to sound incredibly creepy, but I was actually in the booth right behind yours, and I couldn't help overhearing. Listen, that dude is absolute trash, and frankly, nobody deserves to be spoken to like that." Vanessa lifted her head, dark streaks of makeup staining her cheeks. You heard it? God, I could just die of shame right now. Dom didn't wait for an invitation. He just slid into the opposite bench. Hey, none of that. You aren't the one who needs to feel bad. He's the one who dropped the ball. He extended a hand, rough and permanently etched with motor oil. Name's Dominic, by the way. But stick with Dom. I fix cars for a living, and apparently I'm also a professional eavesdropper on disastrous dates. A wet, fragile chuckle escaped her lips as she took his hand. I'm Vanessa. Friends call me Nessa. I'm a nurse by trade, and clearly the world champion of terrible blind dates. Let me get you a fresh cup? Truth is, my wallet only stretches to coffee right now, so the menu is limited. But I can throw in some decent conversation for free. Nessa dabbed at her eyes with a napkin. Please, you don't need to do this. We're total strangers. I know enough, Dom countered. I know you're a mother fighting for a sick child, and you just got disrespected by a coward who isn't fit to tie your shoes. That tells me everything I need to know. For the next hour, the rest of the world faded away. Dom listened as Nessa opened up about Oliver, her son, who was handed a death sentence via an inoperable brain tumor at just 2 years old. She described the last 3 years as a blur of chemotherapy drips, radiation burns, and endless surgical consultations. But the cancer was winning. They had recently made the impossible choice to stop fighting and shift to palliative care, just trying to make his final days painless. She spoke of Oliver's father, a man who packed his bags the very afternoon the doctor gave them the news, claiming it was too heavy for him. She was drowning in $200,000 of medical debt and surviving on graveyard shifts just to be awake when Oliver needed her during the day. Even tonight wasn't her idea. Her best friend Jenna had practically shoved her out the door. Jenna had insisted she needed just one evening of pretending to be a normal woman with a normal life. In return, Dom shared his own ghosts, losing his wife, Olivia, and their unborn child 4 years back. He talked about the struggle of raising his daughter, Sophie, on a grease monkey's paycheck that vanished before rent was due. He laughed about the irony of his own truck dying that morning despite his profession, and touched on that hollow, unique isolation of single parenthood where there's no one else to tag in. When the server finally appeared, Dom snatched the receipt before Nessa could react. He pulled a crumpled $20 bill from the secret fold of his wallet, money reserved for dire situations. Nessa noticed the emptiness of the leather billfold. Dom, stop. You can't afford to cover this. You said yourself you were tapped out. Dom just shrugged. Neither can you. We're both scraping the bottom of the barrel, Nessa. We might as well be broke in good company tonight. They exited into the cool night air just as Dom's bus hissed to a halt nearby. Nessa turned to him. Thank you. Truly, for looking at me when I felt like I didn't exist. I don't even know how to repay you. Dom fished his phone from his pocket. Look, I don't want to overstep, but let me give you my contact info. Not asking for a date, just if you ever need to vent to someone who actually understands the grind. Nessa nodded, typing the digits into her contacts. They parted ways. Later, around 11 o'clock, Dom was drifting off when his cell buzzed against the nightstand, displaying an unknown ID. He swiped to answer. Nessa's voice was trembling on the other end. I am so incredibly sorry to wake you up. The pain is really bad for Oliver tonight. I needed to hear a human voice that isn't going to lie to me and say it gets better when we know it won't. Dom sat bolt upright, sleep instantly forgotten. It's not okay, Nessa, and you have every right to say that. Tell me about the boy. Who is Oliver on his best days? For 2 straight hours, Nessa poured her heart out. She spoke of his obsession with comic book heroes and the way he managed to grin even through the agony. Dom hung on every syllable, struck by the feeling that some higher power had steered him into that diner for a purpose that was only just becoming clear. 6 days past Valentine's, Dom rang Nessa around midday. His opening words made her freeze, a half-folded shirt still in her hands. I know I might be crossing a line here, he started, but I'd be honored to meet Oliver, if you'd allow it. I feel like I know him already, and I need to shake the hand of the kid who raised the toughest mother I've ever encountered. Silence stretched over the line before Nessa finally whispered, I don't bring people into his life, Dom. It breaks his heart when they leave, and everyone leaves. Dom's voice was steady. I'm not everyone. I'm staying put, but I will respect your decision. She told him to come over before the sun went down. Stepping into the cramped apartment, Dom had to steel himself to keep his expression stoic. The living area wasn't a home. It was a trauma ward. A clinical hospital bed dominated the space where a sofa belonged, flanked by oxygen cylinders, IV stands, and the blinking lights of cardiac monitors. Oliver was barely the size of a 5-year-old, his scalp smooth from the treatments, framing massive brown eyes that dominated his small face. He sported Spider-Man sleepwear despite the sun blazing outside. Spotting Dom in the doorframe, he whispered in a fragile tone, "Are you here for my mommy?" Dom crossed the room and crouched low to meet the boy's gaze. "That's right, pal. I'm Dom, your mom's friend. Rumor has it you're a serious superhero expert." And a spark returned to Oliver's weary features. "Spider-Man is the best," he breathed. "He's just a normal guy like me, but he does miracles." They lost the entire afternoon to animated adventures, with Oliver painstakingly detailing every story arc, even as his energy faded. From the kitchen entrance, Nessa observed them, silent tears tracking down her cheeks. No one but doctors had chosen to sit with her son in over 12 months. A fortnight later, Diama introduced his daughter to the pair. He had prepped Sophie. Oliver was sick, he might look frail, but she marched straight to the bedside, bypassing all pleasantries. "Hi, I'm Sophie. My mom passed away when I was 4, so I get it when bad stuff happens. You're brave." Oliver blinked in shock. "Your mom died? I'm gonna die too. The doctor said so." Sophie didn't flinch. She just scrambled onto the mattress beside him. "I know, but you're here right now. Wanna color?" Dom and Nessa watched from the kitchenette as their children merged worlds, and Nessa murmured, "Your girl is extraordinary. She didn't even blink." Dom replied softly, "She's seen the end. She understands things others don't. Your boy is something special too." Standing close enough to catch the scent of her hair, Dom whispered, "I think I'm falling for you." "Is that insanity, given where we are?" Nessa's eyes swam with emotion. "If it is, lock us both up because I'm falling right back." She confessed, "I can't promise you a future, Dom. I don't know the timeline or how long we have. I can't see past sunset." And he silenced her fears with a kiss right there by the stove. "Forget promises. Forget plans. Give me today, tomorrow, and whatever follows." They stole every moment their schedules permitted, constructing a sanctuary in the center of the hardest storm either had ever weathered. Come mid-March, the hospice nurse recommended a specific drug to ease Oliver's suffering. But the insurance provider rejected the claim, deeming it unnecessary for a dying child. The price tag was $800 a week out of pocket. Nessa called Dom, sobbing so violently she could barely articulate the words. "I can't pay for it. The one thing to stop is hurting. What kind of mother fails her child like this?" Dom didn't hesitate. He pulled double shifts at the garage, clocking 80-hour weeks until grease was etched into his skin and his spine screamed in protest. 3 days later, he stood at her door with $800 in hand. She tried to push it back, sparking a desperate argument. "I can't take this. You're barely scraping by." "Let me do this," Dom pleaded. "I can't save him. I can't stop the inevitable, but I can do this. Let me help." Rye, Dom's boss of 8 years, caught wind of the situation. He rallied the crew, and in 2 weeks, mechanics and strangers who'd never met Oliver pooled together $5,000. Nessa was floored. When Dom presented the check, from the boys at the shop, they wanted to pitch in. She collapsed into his chest. "I don't deserve this. I don't deserve you." By April, the lines had blurred. They were a family in all but name. Dom spent most nights at Nessa's, handling the midnight medical shifts. Sophie dedicated her weekends to reading aloud when Oliver's energy waned. One afternoon, Oliver turned to his mother. "Is Dom gonna be my daddy?" Nessa's voice quivered. "Is that what you want, baby?" He smiled weakly. "Yeah. He's good, and Sophie's like the sister I never had." When Nessa relayed the conversation, Dom's knees gave out. He sank onto a chair, overcome. "It would be the greatest honor of my life," he choked out, "for however long he has." They held each other on the sofa, weeping. Late April brought a sharp downturn. Oliver slept 18 hours a day, and the pain meds began to lose the war. The hospice nurse pulled Nessa aside, her voice dropping to a gentle but heavy whisper. "It is time to start the goodbyes. We are looking at days now, not weeks." Sophie came to say her farewells on May 2nd, taking Oliver's small hand in hers. "I'm going to remember you forever, you know that? And one day, when I have kids of my own, I am going to tell them all about my friend Oliver. I will tell them he was the bravest person I ever met." Oliver squeezed her hand weakly and whispered, "Will you make sure to tell them I loved Spider-Man?" Sophie forced a smile through her tears. "Every single time." Dom had to step out of the room, unable to hold back the sobs enough to be strong for them. Oliver slipped away at 3:47 in the morning on May 4th. Nessa was holding him. Dom was holding her, and Sophie was curled up asleep on the couch nearby. It was quiet, peaceful, and absolutely world-ending all at once. The weeks that followed dissolved into a gray blur of funeral logistics and paperwork, Nessa drifting through her life like a phantom. She resigned from this hospital immediately. She could not bear to walk onto a pediatric oncology ward ever again. Dom moved her into his home because she simply could not stay in her apartment, haunted by medical machines and ghosts of memories. Sophie tried her best to help, bringing Nessa glasses of water and just sitting in silence while she wept. One afternoon she spoke up. "It is okay to be sad, Nessa. My dad says grief is just love that has nowhere left to go." Nessa pulled the little girl close, marveling that an 8-year-old understood heartbreak better than most adults. 2 months dragged by, and Nessa barely stepped foot outside the front door. Then, on July 4th, Dom returned from work to find suitcases in the hallway and Nessa packing. His heart plummeted. "What is happening? Where are you going?" Nessa refused to meet his eyes. "I am leaving. This is not fair to you. You never signed up for this misery." Dom stepped forward. "Don't do this. Please, don't run away." But she didn't stop packing. "You gave me everything, Dom. Your time, your money, your home, your daughter's love, and all I have given you is grief and pain. Oliver is gone. There is no reason for you to be stuck with me anymore." Dom caught her hands, forcing her to look at him. "I am not staying because of Oliver. I am staying because I love you. I fell for you that night in the diner, and I am still in love with you right now." Nessa broke down, sobbing so hard she could barely inhale. "I don't know how to exist without him," she choked out. "I don't know who I am if I am not Oliver's mother. I don't know how to do this life." Dom held firm. "Then we will figure it out together. Just please don't leave." Nessa wrenched her hands free and grabbed her bag. "I need space. I have to figure out who I am on my own." "I am sorry." She walked out the door, leaving Dom standing alone in the center of his living room, feeling like his heart had been ripped out all over again. 3 months passed after Nessa walked out, and Dom felt like he was moving through deep water. Everything felt muffled and distant. The world had lost its color and its meaning. He went through the motions, waking up, working, caring for Sophie, but he wasn't really there. He was just a shell. Sophie asked him every single day, "Is Nessa coming back home? Do you think she misses us? Can we please call her and tell her we love her?" And every time, Dom had to look his 8-year-old daughter in the eye and say, "I don't know, sweetheart. I really hope so. But sometimes people need to be alone to heal, and we have to let them go, even when it hurts." He never told Sophie that he lay awake every night, staring at the dark ceiling. He couldn't stop thinking about Nessa. Was she okay? Was she eating? Was she drowning in that ocean of grief with no one to pull her back to the surface? He would pick up his phone 100 times a day to type a text, only to set it back down because she had asked for space. He had to respect that boundary, even though it felt like it was killing him from the inside out. Nessa was staying with her best friend, Jenna, in a spare room that felt more like a cage than a sanctuary. She was in therapy twice a week, sitting opposite a woman named Dr. Rivera, who asked questions that felt like knives. "Why did you leave Dominic?" Dr. Rivera would ask. "Walk me through the logic there." "Because I don't deserve him," Nessa would reply. "Because I am broken. He only stayed out of pity for the woman with the dying child. Now that Oliver is gone, he has no reason to stick around." Every time she spiraled like that, Dr. Rivera would lean forward. "Is that actually true, Nessa? Or is that what your grief is telling you?" But Nessa couldn't hear it. She couldn't let herself believe that someone like Dom would actually choose someone as damaged as she felt. On September 15th, which would have been Oliver's 6th birthday, Nessa woke up feeling like someone had poured concrete into her chest. She couldn't move for hours. Around 2 o'clock in the afternoon, Jenna knocked softly. "Nessa, honey, there is a package here for you. It is from Dr. Patel at the hospital." Nessa forced herself to get up, walking to the door to sign for it with shaking hands. Tucked inside the box was a folded note. The handwriting wasn't Oliver's. One of the nurses must have held the pen. But the voice? That was him, loud and clear. Her legs gave out. She sank onto the hallway floorboards, trembling as she unfolded the paper. "Dear Mom," it began. "If you're reading this, I've already taken off. I'm probably hanging out with the Avengers right now, which is awesome. But listen, I've got some important stuff to say before you go and get all sad for the rest of your life. I know you're gonna miss me, and that's cool. I promise I'm missing you right back, even from way up here. But Mom, you gotta promise me something. Don't stop living just because my turn is over. Nessa wiped at her eyes, her vision swimming in salt water, but she forced herself to keep reading. I want you happy, Mom. Like, big-time happy. And I know Dom does that for you. I used to watch your face light up whenever he walked in the room. It wasn't that fake a smile you used for the doctors, it was real. Dom's a good guy, Mom. He really loves you. And Sophie? Best sister ever. Wish I had more time with her, but she's tough. Just like you. You guys should be a family. Nessa clutched the paper to her chest, gasping for air as a fresh wave of grief doubled her over. When she found her breath, she read on. Don't push him away, Mom. I know you think you don't deserve it, but you're wrong. You deserve the world. You fought for me every single day. Even when it got scary, you never bailed on me. Let someone else take a shift now. Let him take care of you. Be happy for me, okay? Go have a huge, beautiful life. Think of me, but don't be sad forever. I love you to the moon and back 1,000,000 times. Love, Oliver. P.S. Tell Sophie she's got to tell her kids about me one day. She promised, and I'm holding her to it. Pressing the note against her heart, the truth hit Nessa like a physical blow. She was doing exactly the opposite of what her son wanted. She was punishing herself simply for breathing air that he couldn't. She had torched the best thing in her life because she felt unworthy of love. She scrambled up, snatching her keys. She didn't even bother changing out of her sleepwear before peeling out of the driveway toward Dom's place. It was 9:30 when she hammered on his door. Dom opened it, eyes heavy with exhaustion, motor oil still stained deep in his cuticles. His fatigue vanished the moment he recognized her. Dom, I'm sorry, she choked out. I ran away. I shouldn't have pushed you out. I was going under, and I got it into my head that you were only here because you felt bad for me. But I found a letter from Oliver. He wants me to live. And you're the only reason I want to try. He hauled her over the threshold and crushed her into a hug. It was never pity, Nessa. Never. I fell for you back at the diner, watching you try to hold it all together. I haven't stopped loving you since. Through the sickness, the funeral, the breakdown, I signed up for all of it, because I signed up for you. She buried her face in his shirt, sobbing. I don't know how to do this, Dom. How can I be happy when my baby is gone? We figure it out, he whispered. One day at a time. We honor him by living a life worth watching. Footsteps thundered down the stairs. Sophie skidded to a halt, eyes wide. Nessa, you came back! She launched herself like a missile, nearly knocking Nessa off her feet. I missed you so bad, Sophie wailed into her coat. Daddy was super sad, but he said you needed time. Are you home now? Please say you're staying. Nessa smoothed the girl's hair. I'm staying, sweetie. I'm never leaving again, I promise. Over the next few months, they began to glue the pieces of their lives back together. Nessa moved in and found a new calling. She started working in hospice, guiding other families through the darkest days she knew so well. Every shift felt like a tribute to her son, ensuring other children felt the same love he had at the end. Dom was still at the shop, but he stopped working himself into an early grave. No more 80-hour weeks. They made it home for dinner every night. Between bites, Sophie would ramble about school, and they'd trade the best parts of their day. On December 10th, Oliver's birthday, Dom told Nessa to get her coat. As soon as the wrought iron gates came into view, she knew the destination. They crunched through the snow to the plot. The headstone was etched with Spider-Man, surrounded by fresh bouquets Sophie had dropped off yesterday. Right there in the freezing powder, Dom dropped to one knee and produced a small, velvet square. Oliver is the bridge, Nessa. He brought us together. He's the reason we found each other. I couldn't do this without him here. He's part of this family and he always will be. He flipped the lid, revealing a modest silver band with a small, sparking stone. Everything he had saved for. Vanessa Loron, will you marry me? Allow me the privilege of spending my remaining days proving that you are worthy, that you are adored, and that simply being you is all I ever need. She didn't even wait for the punctuation. Her head was already bobbing yes as she choked out, It's perfect because it's yours. I don't care about the price tag. I just crave something genuine, and us, we are the truest thing I've ever known. Absolutely, I will be your wife. The nuptials were set for the following May, marking exactly 1 year since Oliver passed, because Nessa insisted, I need to transmute the saddest date on the calendar into something beautiful. Let the 4th of May be remembered as the moment I married my soulmate, rather than solely the anniversary of losing my son. They exchanged vows in the garden behind Dom's sister's house, surrounded by a sea of white blooms and 30 steadfast souls who had held them up when their world collapsed. Sophie served as the flower maiden, draped in lavender fabric, a touching tribute to the Hugh Oliver loved best. She marched down the grassy aisle clutching a framed portrait of Oliver, which she gently settled onto a reserved seat in the front row. Her voice rang out, clear and certain for the crowd to hear. Oliver made it too. He's watching his mommy become a bride. There wasn't a dry nay in the assembly when Dom spoke his truth. You taught me that resilience isn't about being unbreakable. It is about the courage to reassemble the pieces. Oliver showed me exactly what deserves our focus in the brief time we are given. Together, you two woke me from a numb slumber, showing me how to exist with a chest wide open to the world. When Nessa's turn came, she whispered, "All showed me that death cannot extinguish love. It merely transforms." You proved that a shattered heart can mend, expand, and welcome a new partner without evicting the memories of the past. And Sophie? She is living proof that kinship isn't defined by blood. It is defined by who stands beside you when everyone else runs. I vow to be present for you both, unfailingly, until my last breath. As the ceremony closed, they sent a cloud of purple balloons skyward, each tethered to a note for the boy watching from above. Sophie's tag carried a simple, poignant update. "We are a whole family now, exactly as you hoped. I am keeping your legend alive, just like I swore I would. Love you to infinity." 2 years down the road, Dom and Nessa welcomed a baby girl named Olivia, honoring Dom's late wife, recognizing that the profound losses they both endured had carved their paths toward one another. At 12 years old, Sophie took to her role as big sister with fierce devotion, constantly weaving tales for the infant. Dom would return from the garage to witness Sophie cradling the newborn, whispering, "You had a big brother named Oliver. He was a warrior." The sickness took him, but it never took his smile, and he is the invisible string that tied Mommy and Daddy together. He is your guardian angel now. The monthly pilgrimage to Oliver's resting place remained a non-negotiable family tradition. Armed with fresh blooms and Sophie's latest sketches, they would update him on their world. Nessa always whispered, "We found joy, sweet boy, just as you commanded. It is real, true happiness, and you are woven into every bright moment we share." Their bank accounts were never overflowing. Dom pulled in $40,000 a year turning wrenches, and Nessa's hospice wages were equally modest. Yet they had a roof over their heads, full plates, and an unbreakable bond, which they valued far above any overflowing vault. Occasionally, the most agonizing detours in life are the exact paths that lead us straight to our soulmates. On that fateful Valentine's, Dom saw a woman sobbing on a blind date. He could have easily downed his $2 coffee, caught his bus, and erased her from his memory. Nessa had just confessed that her 5-year-old was terminal. Her date couldn't flee fast enough, labeling her tragedy as too much drama to handle. But Dom, a random bystander with barely $2 to his name, made a different call. He stayed. He witnessed her agony, sat in the discomfort, and eventually learned to love her through the storm. Loving a person in the trenches is not for the faint of heart. Few possess the bravery to remain present when the walls are closing in, especially when the exit door is wide open. However, the one meant for you won't view your sorrow as luggage. They will view your survival as a superpower. Oliver's 5 years on Earth were radiant, and in his twilight he bequeathed his mother a present she hadn't realized she required. He steered a man toward her who would hold her hand in the abyss, and a little girl who would become her kin. If you are currently navigating your darkest chapter, drowning in grief or feeling damaged beyond repair, know that your partner is out there, and they won't sprint away when the chaos starts. They will plant their feet, battle alongside you, and cherish you through the insurmountable odds. Click subscribe if this story served as a reminder that affection often finds us at rock bottom. Pass this along to anyone starving for hope. And never forget, your most difficult season is merely a single page, not the entire book.